No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah, refuse. Mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it. They told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. That's sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie. I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like told me, keep on running toes, they gon' take them. Refuse to lose, built to win. Apply myself, I felt it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah, no time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win. Yeah, refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Apply myself.
Welcome back to CTC. I'm your gracious host, Carl, and I'm back for another episode. So look, it's been a week, and y'all know, all season I'm doing one episode a week, and I know it's 11:30, but I did this one late on purpose. This was an ode to the Pac-12. As you can see, my name is gone, but not forgotten. If you think Pac-12, you think 11 o'clock kickoff, 10:45 kickoff, 10:15 kickoff, you know, because the West Coast. 11 o'clock tip-off, there's Mountain West, Pac-12, all of that. This is the Pac-12 review. So I said, as the last season of the Pac-12, I had to go live at 11:30. My eyes, I'm tired doing this, but I thought it'd be right. Also, I will be talking about Bill Walton and his legendary career as a broadcaster and as a player. R.I.P. Bill Walton, we lost a great one. We lost him yesterday due to cancer. Again, Bill Walton is gone, but not forgotten. But before I get into the episode, I'd like to ask that you leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. It helps the network. It helps my channel, CTC, by the Refuse to Lose Network. By way of the Refuse to Lose Network, we have shows like the Refuse to Lose main show that went live earlier today. That was Joe, Tomo, and Dave. To talk about sports topics. Right now it's mainly playoffs. We got some NFL thrown in there. We had an NFL kind of day like 2 weeks ago, I think, or a week ago. We got BWT, Baseball with Teddy. He got his Yankees going right now. All baseball goes through BWT. We got Dave's Doghouse, highlights and lowlights all throughout sports. It could be, I almost made a Dave Chappelle joke, but it could be football, basketball, college basketball, tennis, soccer, baseball, darts, cornhole, bowling, whatever you can think of. Highlights, lowlights, Dave's Doghouse. We got Real Ballers Only featuring Vaughn. He's doing the playoffs. It's our NBA channel. Like I said, he's doing the playoffs. Some people might have thought we'd have our finals preview tomorrow or whenever he goes live, but the T-Wolves won tonight, so there's no finals preview yet. We got Kings Talk with Joe Jordan. Joe already told you he's a Kings fan. It's all about the Kings. He said these are his words, not mine. Nobody cares about the Kings right now until after the finals, so that's when they'll talk about the Kings. Again, his words, not mine. We got fantasy football with Coach Coombs, which, as you know, fantasy football is not here. It's not fantasy football season. Fantasy football season is not even around the corner, so he's just talking off-season football. So he talked about free agency. He talked about the draft. I don't know when he's going to go live again, but we still got free agents that's out there. We still got Justin Simmons. We still got, Quandre Diggs, I believe, is still a free agent. So we still got guys that are free agents that he may or may not talk about. And last but certainly not least, we have In the Red Corner featuring Tomo, Ricky, and Ty. So just look out on the episode for them. They're boxing. They do boxing episodes, talking about major fights, fighters, things of that nature. Anything boxing, you tune into In the Red Corner. So please like, comment, share, subscribe to all those channels on the network. It helps them and us grow as one. And if you like what you're listening to, stick with us. So let's start this Pac-12 review. And we're going to start with Arizona. And boy, did Arizona come out of nowhere. Jaden Delorier started as the starting quarterback for Arizona, but then his job was swiftly taken away by Noah Fafita, the young freshman who never looked back once he got it. Noah Fafita had an amazing year for Arizona. So did I want to say Jacob Cowan. Tutorial McMillan. Was it Jacob? Yeah, Jacob Cowan. Yep, Dorian Singer's the one that went to USC. Jacob Cowan is the one that stayed. They both had great seasons at Arizona. I believe Jonah Coleman was the running back, had a pretty good solid year at Arizona. Arizona in general, great year. Arizona was coming off a 5-7 year, 3-6 in the conference. Again, like I said, Dorian Singer is the one that left to SC. Jacob Cowan was the one that returned. I had them going again 5-7 and 3-6, and boy, was I wrong, but not in a bad way. I was wrong in a good way because Arizona had a really good year. They finished off 9-3, 7-2 in conference, won the Alamo Bowl 38-24 against Oklahoma. I had them beating Northern Arizona. They won. I had them losing to Mississippi State, which they lost. I had them beating UTEP, which they won. Beating Stanford, they won. I had them losing to Washington, they lost. Had them losing to SC, they lost. Had them losing to Washington State, which they did win. Had them beating Oregon State, which they won. Had them losing to UCLA, they won. Had them losing to Colorado, they won. Had them losing to Utah, which they won. No Cam Rising played a huge part in that. And I had them beating Arizona State, which they did win. I had 8 games correct, 4 games wrong. Again, shout out to Arizona. Shout out to that offense. Shout out to Noah and those guys. I believe Jed Fish has now moved on. Give me 1 second to Google that. I think Jed Fish has now moved on, though. I want to say he moved on to – no, that's Elko at Texas A&M. Yep, he moved on to Washington. Jed Fish is now a part of Washington. So shout out to him. He parlayed that Arizona year into the job at Washington since Kalen DeBoer has now gone to Alabama. So we move on from Arizona to Arizona State and the Sun Devils. They had a rough year, especially at quarterback. Believe they went through 3 or 4 of them. They went through Jaden Rashada. They went through Drew Pine. I can't remember the other 2, but they went through a lot. They went through a lot of quarterbacks. Didn't really find one to take the lead, in my opinion. I think they'll stick with the young gun, Jaden Rashada. But yeah, they did have the young running back that transferred in from Sacramento State, who I like, and Cameron Scatterbo. I really liked the guy last year. Really good running back, really solid power back, can get you those short yards. So shout out to Cam Scatterbo. An FCS transferring in and doing his thing. They did have Elijah Badger come back, which didn't really have a great year. That was more so due to the quarterback play at Arizona State. Shout out my boy, Baseball with Teddy BWT. Said, what's good, Brody? Was good, Teddy. Hopefully the Yankees, they get a dub tonight. But yeah, Arizona State coming off a 3-9, 2-7 year. I had them going 3-9, 1-8. They actually finished 3-9, 2-7 again. So got the actual record right, missed the conference record by 1 game. So that's a half a point. I'll take it. Pac-12 was Pac-12 was more brutal to me than the Big 12, believe it or not. We watched the episode with me and Ace. Big 12 was brutal, but Pac-12 was worse, which I think I even said on the show. Pac-12 might have been worse. But I had Arizona State beating Southern Utah. They won. Had them losing Oklahoma State. They lost, which I actually won money off that game. So shout out. I had them beating Fresno State. I remember that Fresno State game. I was at my dad's house when this game came on, a late night game. And I believe Arizona State went through 3-4 quarterbacks in this game alone. I believe that Fresno State might have had like something along the lines of like 6-7 sacks. Ooh, hold on, I just messed up. I believe they had something like 6-7 sacks. It was a bad day for Arizona State. Fresno State looked untouchable that game against Arizona State. I want to say that's the game where who was the quarterback that transferred into Fresno State? And I actually like the guy too. I keep thinking of Hudson Card, but that's the guy who transferred to Purdue. Give me 1 second. I can't believe I can't remember Brad name that was at Fresno State. I actually liked them too. Fresno State won 29-0. I'm so mad. It's going Mikey King from UCF. Mikey King is the one that transferred to Fresno State. So Arizona, the leading pass for Arizona State had 2 picks. I want to say Rashada didn't play this game. I want to say he was hurt. Yeah, he didn't play this game. Drew Pine had 2 picks, and then Trenton Bourrier came in and had 1 pick. They had 5 total picks. Fresno State had, maybe that was what I was thinking about. Maybe it was the picks. Maybe it was the interception games I was thinking of. They had 5 picks. Let's see. I'm trying to find the defensive stats right now for the sacks. Why are they not showing up? This was the Eric Brooks game. 11 catches, 104 yards. Did his thing. Mikey King had 281 and 2 tuds. I remember Fresno State just looked crazy this game. I can't get the sack stats up, and that's kind of making me upset. Maybe if I go to team stats, I'm at individual stats. Let me go to team and see if they'll be up there. Team stats. Ooh, come on. Why is sacks not here? They just got the turnovers. Arizona State had 8 turnovers. They lost 3 fumbles, threw 5 picks, 8 turnovers this game. But for some reason, these sack stats is not up here. So sorry about that one. But again, Fresno State looked crazy this game against Arizona State, and they won. I had them losing to USC. They lost. I had them beating Cal. They lost. I had them losing to Colorado. They lost. I had them losing to Washington. They lost. I had them losing to Washington State, which they won. Cam Ward. We'll talk about Cam Ward later. Had them losing to Utah, which they lost. Had them losing to UCLA, which they won, actually. Had them losing to Oregon. They lost. I had them losing to Arizona. They lost. So, again, finished 3-9, 2-7 with their 2 conference wins being Washington State and UCLA, which was very surprising. Arizona State still has a long way to go before being a decent team in the Big 12. Yeah, Arizona State's now in the Big 12. So we move on to Cal. I had them going 3-9, 1-8, coming off of a 4-8, 2-7 year. They lost Jack Plummer, who went to Louisville, who actually had a really good year for Louisville. They did bring back my boy Jaden Ott, who was a freshman running back who I was high on coming into the season. They lost Jermichael Studevant to UCLA, who had a pretty good year. They had a quarterback transferring from Utah. They had Ben Finley transferring in from NC State, who I wasn't that high on. I can't remember who actually won out the job for Cal at starting quarterback. But quarterback play, if I remember correctly, just wasn't that great. Jaden Ott did his thing. I don't want to say Jaden Ott had a phenomenal year because I don't think that was the case. But I think he did have a really solid year for the Cal Golden Bears. I'm looking it up right now just to make sure. Because I don't think Ben Finley actually was the starter last year, but he could have very well been the starter. But anyway, a solid year for Cal. Cal doing better than what I expected. Yeah, it wasn't. It was Fernando Mendoza who ended up being the guy at quarterback. I take that back. Jaden Ott had 1,305 yards rushing, so he had a phenomenal year at Cal. I don't know why I thought he had something like a solid 1,000, but 1,300, amazing year at Cal. And like I said, I was high on bro coming into the season. I love Jaden Ott. I think he's a really great back. Might want to get up out of Cal, but he's loyal to the soil so far. So shout out to him. I gotta respect that, but just a okay year. Even Fernando, 14 touchdowns, 10 picks, not great. It's okay, not great. 1,700 yards, that's not great at all, but it's solid. It's okay. It's okay. I'll say it's okay. Not solid. It's okay. Cal, I had them beating North Texas, which they did win. I had them losing to Auburn, which they lost. I had them beating Idaho, which they won. I had them losing to Washington, they lost. I had them losing to Arizona State, which they won. Had them losing to Oregon State, they lost. Had them losing to Utah, they lost. I had them losing to SC, they lost. Had them losing to Oregon, they lost. I had them losing to Washington State, they actually won that game. I had them beating Stanford, they won, and I had them losing to UCLA, which they did win to get to 6-6, 4-5. I got 9 games right, 3 games wrong. They did lose to Texas Tech, 34-14 in the Independence Bowl. But making a bowl game for Cal nonetheless was a solid year. Again, I had them going 3-9, taking a step back from last year. I actually took 2 games forward, making a bowl game. Pretty decent conference record, to be honest, at 4-5. I say that's pretty solid for Cal. Cal's now moved on to the ACC. A lot of people, including myself, say the ACC is the worst conference in the country amongst Power 5, now Power 4 conferences. So Cal can, I don't want to say contend to be a top. No, they're not top. They can contend to be middle of the pack, though. I feel like they can contend to be middle of the pack in the ACC. But we got to move on to Colorado. Colorado and Coach Primetime. Primetime's first year at Colorado in Boulder. Colorado went 1-11, 1-8 the year prior to Coach Prime. I had them going 6-6, 5-4. They actually went 4-8, 1-8. Now, you might say, no. This is what I'll say, right? Let me backtrack. I would say this is a successful season for Colorado. Now, you might say, Carl, they went 4-8. How is that successful? If you remember how the start of the year went, everybody and their mother said Colorado will go under 3.5 games. Their win-loss was at 3.5. And like I said, they all took the under. Oh, they can't beat this team. They can't beat that team. They can't beat this team. They'll be lucky to win 2 games. They have the worst. They said literally they had the worst roster in all of college football. Not of all of the Power 5 conferences, in all of college football, including Colorado State, including, I'm trying not to get disrespectful, Sam Houston State, who just moved up to the FBS level. So Sam Houston State took them forever to get a win, including a UTEP. They were saying that their roster is better than Colorado's. So for them to go 4-8, only win 1 conference game, should have been 2, should have been a Stanford game. We'll talk about that in a second. But for them to do that, I think that was successful. I think they can build on this. You got to build them trenches, which Dion has done an excellent job of doing. I know he's been going through transfer portal Armageddon, guys coming in and out, but he warned y'all this is going to happen. So if you're surprised, I don't know why. But let's get into the schedule. I had them losing to TCU. They won. Great job. And I talked about it at the end when it happened the following day. I know they were like, oh, they beat the national champs. We believe Prime this and that. I'm like, cool. They not the national champs. They beat the team that went to the Natty because they got smoked by Georgia. It's late. Forgive me. They got smoked by Georgia. It wasn't even close. Like they was eating chicken wings on the sidelines. I remember that game. But everybody like, yeah, they was the runner-ups, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, great win, because a lot of people didn't even see y'all winning that game. Not taking a win away from y'all, great win. But we don't have to overblow it out of proportion. TCU lost the starting quarterback, Max Duggan, NFL. Starting running back, Kendre Miller, NFL. Saints, I believe. And Quentin Johnston, NFL, Chargers. That is not the TCU team that went to the Big 12 championship. That is not the TCU team that beat Michigan in the, I want to say the Cotton Bowl. And that's not the TCU team that got smoked by Georgia in the Natty. That is a different TCU team. Chandler Morris is actually the quarterback that got benched for Max Duggan. He was a starter before Duggan had his turnaround. Trey Sanders was a transfer running back from Alabama. And they had the transfer from Oklahoma State, I think J.P. Richardson, at wide receiver. So it's not the same TCU team. So while it was a great win, nonetheless, it is not the runner-ups. They were trying to make it seem like, oh, they got a chance for the net. No. Great win. Celebrate the win. Because a lot of people didn't have you winning it. But let's not blow it out of proportion. Moving on. Had them losing to Nebraska, which they actually beat Nebraska, and that is because I talked about the Big Ten. Why didn't I not talk? I think I did talk about this with Nebraska. Nebraska had turnover issues all year. From Jefferson to, Heinrich, the quarterback. Either way, both quarterbacks turnover problems. Jeff Sims just fumbling the rock, throwing picks. Same thing with the backup. I thought Matt Rule World Order, thought he's a great college guy. He turned around Temple, turned around Baylor. He's working on Nebraska. I'm like, all right, Nebraska's going to be really good under Matt Rule, and they just cannot stop the turnovers. And they cost them against Colorado. Beat Colorado State. I had them beating them. They did beat them. Took OT. I think even double overtime for that win. That was a late night game. That was a lot of intensity in that game as well. Colorado gets the W. Then I had them losing to Oregon. They got smoked. Oregon was like, this is cute. They're 3-0, but it's levels. Smoked them. Losing to SC. Now, that one ended up being close. SC was smoking them at first, but Colorado did make a comeback. I think they only ended up winning by 7. So, great one there. Then I had them beating Arizona State, which they did win that game. So, shout out there. Now, the Stanford game. I had them winning, and I remember they were beating them at South Stanford. It was late. I'm like, I'm going to sleep. They should handle this. And then, was it Alec Aominer? Boy, he went crazy. Led the comeback for Stanford to win. Hey, I believe 3 tuds. Even smoked Trav. Amazing game by him. Gets the W against Colorado. So that ends up becoming an L for me. Then they lose to UCLA. Just can't do nothing there. Had them beating Oregon State, which they did lose. I think Damian Martinez might have broke a long run late in the game to seal it, if I'm not mistaken. Had them beating Arizona, but like I said, Arizona came out of nowhere, had a great year. They took an L there. Had them beating Washington State, which they took an L there, and I had them losing to Utah, which they did lose there. So they actually, like I said, finished 4-8, 1-8. I got 6 games right there, 6 games wrong there. Still a successful season, like I said, by Coach Prime, in my opinion. But we got to move on. I kind of spent a lot of time talking about them. I got to talk about the Oregon Ducks next. Now, Oregon was coming off a 9-3 season, 7-2 under Bo Nix, but Bo Nix did end up returning to Eugene for his final season. I believe Kenny Dillingham, however, ended up taking that Arizona State job, so he was now gone. Mario Cristobal, he obviously took the Miami job. So Dan Lanning ended up taking the Oregon job. But Oregon returned so much firepower. They returned Bo Nix, Bucky Irvin, Troy Franklin, Chaz Johnson transferred in from Troy. They just had so many guys in that offense that was so lethal. They did lose Christian Gonzalez, but Kyrie Jackson was next up, obviously getting drafted. And yeah, I had them finishing 9-3, 6-3. They actually said, "Shut up, Carl." They finished 11-1, 8-1. Only loss being to Washington. I had them beating Portland State, which they did win. I had them beating Texas Tech. They did win. That was a close one. We talked about that last week. Had them beating Hawaii. They won. Had them beating Colorado. Smoked them. Had them beating Stanford. They won. Had them losing to Washington. They lost. Great game, by the way. That was an amazing game. Had them beating Washington State. They won. Had them losing to Utah, which they won again. Cam Rising being out for the entire year ruined my whole Utah prediction. Had them beating Cal. They won. Had them losing to SC. They did beat SC. That was the game, I believe. Was that the game? No, that was not the game. Sorry. Had them beating Arizona State. They won, and had them beating Oregon State in the Civil War, which they did win. Then they lost to Washington again in the Pac-12 championship. Another phenomenal game. And then they beat the crap out of Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl, 45-6. Liberty ended up being in a BCS bowl because they were the best non-Power 5, so mid-major, so group of 5 school. Got 10 games right with Oregon, 2 games wrong. So the games I got wrong, Utah, again, Cam Rising was out for the entire year. And SC, I just thought SC would be better offensively. I was told SC got a lot better defensive transfers and talents by some people in the comment section, even though I told you that defense wasn't going to be great. And they got smoked. That defense got smoked a lot. Not just talking about against Oregon. I'm just talking about in general. That defense was no good. Gave up a lot of points. One of the worst defenses in the country. So there's that. But Oregon had another great year, man. 11-1, 8-1, 12 wins on the year. You can't beat that. 12 wins with the bowl game. But you can't beat that BCS Bowl, which is what? New Year's 6, I believe. Can't beat it, man. You can't beat a 12-2 season. Make it to the Pac-12 championship. Believe both. Oh, okay, I gotta save that. Almost jumped the gun. But yeah, great season by Dan Lannon. Great ending of a career by Bo Nix. Oregon, they're going to get recruits. You know, Oregon's going to reload. So just look out for Oregon next year. Moving on from Oregon to Oregon State, the Beavers. Oregon State brings in DJ Ungalale. It's late, so I might mispronounce it. Ungalale. Bring him in, coming off a 9-3, 6-3 season. Bendigo Branson was supposed to come back, which he did, but he obviously didn't win it over DJ. They did bring Damian Martinez back, who had an amazing year at Oregon State. They lost Luke Musgrove to the NFL. They lost Rajon Wright to the NFL, but they did keep Keaton Oladapo on the defensive end. Excuse me. So they returned a little bit. They lost a little bit. They did lose Jaden Grant too. That was another big piece in the secondary. Because I remember my synopsis about Oregon State was, can that secondary be as great as it was in the last year or two? And I think it was still pretty good. I think the secondary was still pretty good. Was it as good as the prior years? Probably not, but that's a high expectation. I still think the Oregon State defense and secondary was really good as though they had. I think the standout was Ryan Cooper, number one, the cornerback. I think he was a standout in that secondary along with Keaton Oladapo. Really, really solid secondary though. But I wasn't sure if Oregon State can maintain the success that they had the year prior, going 9-3. I had them going 5-7, 2-7. They finished 8-4, 5-4. Also, I wasn't a fan of DJ Ungalale. I'm not a fan. I don't think he's as good as touted. So that was another reason why I thought they go 5-7. But I had them beating San Jose State, which they won. I had them beating UC Davis. They won. Had them beating San Diego State. They won. I had them losing to Washington State. They lost. Had them losing to Utah. Again, no Cam Rising. So they did win. Had them beating Cal. They won. Had them losing to UCLA. They won. Excuse me. I had them losing to Arizona for some strange reason. And they did lose. I had them losing to Colorado. They won. I had them beating Stanford. They won. I had them losing to Washington. They lost. And I had them losing to Oregon, which they did lose. So I got 9 games right, 3 wrong. They did get smoked by Notre Dame in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, 40-8. But overall, I think this is a really successful season by Oregon State. You finished 1 game behind the last year, 8-4, 5-4, really solid in the last season of the Pac-12. Didn't beat Oregon in the last, well, I don't want to say the last installment of the Civil War, but Oregon State is not in the Big Ten. Oregon is in the Big Ten. I think Oregon State might be an independent. I'm not sure. I don't know if they got any, what's the word I'm looking for? Agreement to keep this Civil War going because of Oregon and Oregon State. I hope they do. I love the Civil War. But I don't know if they have an agreement to keep that going. But overall, like I said, really good year. Defense showed me that they were still solid, still really good. I would say above average. I would say the year before they were really excellent, and I would say last year they were above average. Offense, man. Anthony Gould was explosive. Silas Bowden was explosive. DJ, man, is the DJ to me. I'm just not a fan of DJ. Sorry, I'm sorry, but still a successful season for Oregon State. Moving on to Stanford. Stanford, coming off a 3-9 year. Who was the quarterback? Tanner McKee. That's right. He was on the Eagles. I wasn't a fan of Tanner McKee. Strong arm. I didn't think he was a great decision maker. EJ Smith did return. Didn't have a great year. I don't think he had a good year at all. They did return the tight end Ben Urasek. He did well for a tight end. He wasn't in the John Mackey discussion. That was Brock. I want to say Colorado State had a tight end in it. And I can't remember if Jack Villan was in it. By the way, Jack Villan is now at MSU, so shout out him. But I didn't have much hopes for Stanford. I actually had them taking a step back, going 2-10, 0-9 in conference. They actually finished 3-9, 2-7. So same conference record, same overall record as the year prior, but one more conference win. Can't get mad at that if you're Stanford. Stanford, I know they say that Stanford gets behind the A-ball of recruiting because of the way the actual school is. Could be true, but Stanford just hasn't been competitive since Andrew Luck, Christian McCaffrey, Cody Whitfield, excuse me, Ty Montgomery, I'm going to say TJ, Ty Montgomery. And these are not people that was on the same team because Andrew Luck was way before Christian McCaffrey. But I'm just naming guys that came out of Stanford who was really good and played on really good Stanford teams. Bryce Love. So, yeah. I had Stanford beating Hawaii, which they did win. I think USC had a game that game. I had them losing to SC. SC smoked them. I had them beating Sac State, which they lost to Sacramento State, which that's when I knew the year Stanford was going to have. Lost to Arizona, which they did lose. I had them losing to Oregon, they lost. Had them losing to Colorado, won, should have lost. Had them losing to UCLA, they lost. Had them losing to Washington, they lost. Had them losing to Washington State, which they won. And again, we'll talk about Washington State. Had them losing to Oregon State, they lost. Had them losing to Cal, they lost. And I had them losing to Notre Dame, which they lost. Like I said, finishing 3-9, 2-7. I got 9 games right, 3 wrong. Obviously, the highlight of Stanford was Alec Ayomanor, great receiver. Stanford is now in the ACC. I don't think they're going to make any noise in the ACC. I'm sorry. I think ACC-wise is going to be the same as Pac-12 for Stanford. Until they just get better, man. They have to get a lot better. And I don't know how recruiting is going to go for them, considering the fact that they might have to, not even might, they will have to play on the East Coast. So I don't know how that's going to go for them. But we're going to move on to UCLA after I sip my water. Throat getting dry. Excuse me. So, UCLA coming off a 9-3, 6-3 year. They did lose DTR and Zach Charbonnet to the NFL, but Carson Steele, the running back from Ball State, who I really like, did transfer in, and they did transfer. They brought in like 2 quarterbacks, and then a freshman and Dante Moore. They brought in Khalid Shali and Ethan Garbers. Then, like I said, Dante Moore was a freshman, a 5-star, highly recruited freshman who, did not look great. He did not look great this year. They lost Jake Bobo to the NFL. They lost Casimir Allen to the NFL. So lost a lot. Again, they brought in Jermichael Studevant from Cal. He had a pretty good year. UCLA offense, really hit or miss. You had some games where it looked really good, or it looked good, not really good, but it looked good. And you had some games where it just looked terrible. Utah, it looked terrible. Let's see. Washington State, it had its moments. It picked up late. Oregon State, I remember it looked terrible. It had moments. Colorado, if I remember correctly, it looked good. Yeah, it was hit or miss. SC, the offense looked really good. It was hit or miss, in my opinion. But let's get into it. So I had UCLA going 10-2, 7-2. I thought Colin Shali and Carson Steele going to UCLA under Chip Kelly was just going to be phenomenal. UCLA never really picked a quarterback. Even from the game against Coastal Carolina, they trotted out multiple quarterbacks, wanted to see who their guy was, and nobody really snatched the position away. Never really found a quarterback. They tried to stick with Dante Moore, and Dante Moore had a 2 or 3 game streak where he would start the game with a pick. I think even a pick 6. I remember Washington State started with a pick 6. I want to say Utah started with a pick 6. Can't remember if he did a pick or pick 6 against Oregon State, but they could never find a quarterback. Coastal Carolina had them beating them. They won. I had them beating San Diego State. They won. I had them beating North Carolina Central. They won. Had them losing to Utah. They lost. Man, Utah went crazy defensively that game. Had them beating Washington State. They won. I had them beating Oregon State. They lost. Had them beating Stanford. They won. Had them beating Colorado. They won. Had them beating Arizona. They lost. Had them beating Arizona State. They lost. Had them losing to SC, they won, and I had them winning against Cal, they lost. So I had them going 10-2, 7-2. I actually went 7-5, 4-5. Got 7 games right, 5 games wrong, and they ended up beating Boise State in the LA Bowl. I want to say, which one was it? I want to say Ethan Garbers is the one that came in after Colin Shalee got hurt, and the offense turned around. Then let me double check. But I want to say that's how it ended up going. Yeah, Ethan Garbers did come in. It was Ethan Garbers that came in, and he went crazy. Colin Shalee has 7 rushes for 127 yards, which is insane. I want to say George Halani for Boise State, 17 carries, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, George Halani. It's now on the Seahawks, so shout out to him. Y'all know one of my favorite running backs in college is still at Boise State, Ashton Genty. So I can't wait to see him next year or later on in the year. But yeah, Ethan Garbers came in and did the thing. TJ Harden also had a great game, 20 carries for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. So shout out to him. Yeah, Colin Shalee was not having a bad game. It's just the offense was kind of, it was kind of stagnant. He was 9 for 12, 152, 2 touchdowns. No, wrong one. That's Ethan Garbers. He was 11 for 16, 78 yards and a touchdown. But when Garbers came in, the offense looked a lot better. So, yeah, shout out to UCLA. Hopefully they can find a guy quarterback next year. Chip Kelly is now, I believe, an OC at Ohio State, while I want to say the head coach and OC at UCLA is Eric Bieniemy. So shout out to them. But as I'm trying to find, there we go, back to studio yet, StreamYard. But yeah, just up and down season for UCLA. Got a bowl game W, so that really 8 wins. That's cool. You'll take that at UCLA. We got to move on. Well, I guess not, because Chip Kelly got fired. But we move on to SC. Now, this one was a big disappointment for me. SC has so much talent on offense. You bring back Caleb Williams, who obviously had to come back. You bring back Brendan Rice. You bring back Mario Williams, who was kind of not used as much as I thought he would be used. But you bring in Taj Washington. You bring in Dorian Singer, who Dorian Singer was not used as much as I thought he would be. You bring in Marshawn Lloyd from USC, South Carolina. You bring in They lose Travis Dye. He went to the league. They lose Jordan Addison, Vikings. But you got so many weapons. I'm thinking of the freshman who housed the kick against San Jose State. That wasn't Taj Washington. Oh, why am I blanking on his name? Oh, my God. Why am I blanking on his name? It's making me so mad. I can't remember his name. It's not Taj Washington. Is it? No, it's not Taj Washington. Zachariah Branch. That's what it was. Zachariah Branch. You do have him as a freshman who was electric. So I thought this offense would be touchdown, 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 touchdown. I know the defense was going to give up points, but in college football, if you got an explosive offense, I know you need a defense, but if you got an explosive offense, you got a chance because it's college football. You know the 2-minute warning don't apply, but every first down the clock stops. Not all the way, but not permanently, but temporarily. You keep getting first downs. You can find your way in games late. So I thought SC would go 12-0, 9-0 in conference. They actually went 7-5, 5-4 in conference. Had them beating San Jose State, which they did win. Had them beating Nevada, they won. Had them beating Stanford, they won. Had them beating Arizona State, they won. Had them beating Colorado, they won, which that game kind of showed a chink in their armor. Had them beating Arizona, they won. Had them beating Notre Dame, they got smacked. Now, I think the score wasn't as bad as I'm making it seem. I know it wasn't close, but it wasn't like no 30, 40-point blowout. But Xavier Watts had a game. Benjamin Morrison was locked up. Caleb Williams was just he was in a place you don't want to be. Had him beating Utah. This is when I knew SC defense was bad. They gave up 33 to Utah, and I want to say the quarterback was Bryson Barnes that game. I can't remember if it was him or Nate Jackson. I want to say Bryson Barnes. But they gave up 33. They gave up the game-winning field goal to Utah, and Utah often struggled all year. I mean, all year. It struggled against Florida. It struggled against UCLA. It struggled all year. But against SC, it was just so effortlessly to move the rock. I want to say Sione Vaki had an amazing game on both sides of the ball that game. Man, it just went to 2024. No, okay, cool. 2023. Oh no, they put up 50. Oh my God. The score was 50-49. Oh man. Oh no, never mind. I'm on Cal. I'm on USC and Cal. My apologies. I'm on USC and Cal. Why is it here? I could have swore it said Cal in Utah. What is going on? Am I on ESPN? You killing me, ESPN. I'm on Cal's schedule. That's why. My apologies. Now I'm on USC schedule. Now I can go to 2023 and then look up that game. All right, so I want to say that it was 33 points. I want to say it was like 33-32, the final score. Come on, ESPN. Why you keep doing this to me? 34-32. So my bad, 1 point off. 34-32. Like I said, I want to say Sione Vaki had an amazing game in the ground. Quarterback was Bryson Barnes, 14-23, 235, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Sione Vaki, 5 catches, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The reason why I think I remember that is because I think I made Sione Vaki a major performer that game. See what he did on the ground. 9 carries, 68 yards. Yeah, I know for a fact I made him a major performer. And he had, come on, defense stats. Sione Vaki, 2 tackles. Well, just 2 tackles. But I know I made him a major performer that week. When they let Bryson Barnes throw for 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and put up 34 points, including the game-winning field goal, I knew. That's when I knew I was right about SC defense. But let's keep going. I had them beating Cal, they won. I had them beating Washington, they lost. I had them beating Oregon, they lost. And I had them beating UCLA, which they lost. So, again, 7-5, 5-4, 7 games right, 5 games wrong. But I never changed it. I'm on UCLA still. Oh, well. But they did, however, win the Holiday Bowl against Louisville 42-28 in major part to Miller Moss, the quarterback. I know I made him a major performer. I want to say he had 5 passing touchdowns. Just put on a display against Louisville. Had a monster game. I want to say him and Taj Washington hooked up a lot that game. Taj Washington was the high man with 99 yards. Miller Moss, 6 touchdowns. Excuse me, Mr. Moss. 23-33, 372 for 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Taj Washington, 7 catches, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Lane, 3 catches, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns. So shout out those guys. Had an amazing game. Isaac Garendo had a game in itself with 5 catches, 42 yards, 23 carries for 161 yards. Jack Plummer ended up not throwing a touchdown pass, which in itself is crazy going against that SC defense. But the SC defense and offense, they used a lot of the young guys. A lot of the guys opted out that were playing. So the young guys played. They played with heart, intensity, tenacity. They played with hunger, and they showed out. Got to move on, though, to Utah. Man. Utah was a roller coaster ride. So we started off the year with Cam Rising. We don't know. He should be back. We don't know when. Might be at the end of week 1. Might be week 2, 3, 4. Start getting to weeks 5 and 6. It looks like Cam Rising is not going to play. They eventually shut him down. So now it's Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson. I want to make sure it's Nate Johnson. Let me make sure it's not something else. But I want to make sure his name is Nate Johnson. But we learned it might be their show. Well, it will be their show because Cam Rising is going to sit this season out. He's going to come back this year now, coming up for his final year at Utah. And I know a lot of people will clown him. A lot of people clown Bo Nix. Some people clown Penix. Some people clown Jaden because of how old he is. But, hey, man, college football, man, it's a fun time. It's a fun game. So I'm not mad at it. All right, so the quarterback name, Nate Johnson, cool. Wasn't wrong. So I'm not mad at it. But let's talk about Utah. I had Utah because I had because I had Cam Rising at quarterback going 10-2, 7-2. They actually finished 8-4, 5-4 behind a stupendous defense. Cole Bishop and those guys at Utah was stupendous. Now, Utah did lose Dalton Kincaid, who's in Buffalo. They did lose Clark Phillips. I can't remember where he went in the NFL. Michael Bernard did return at running back. Michael Pittman transfers in at wide receiver from Florida State. Again, Cam Rising's not there, so he doesn't look as great. But that defense was stupendous. Sione Vaki, Cole Bishop. I'm missing a guy as an edge rusher. Blanking on his name. Sorry about that, young fella. But they were stupendous on defense. I had them beating Florida, which they won. Had them beating Baylor, they won. I believe they almost blew the Baylor game. Had them beating Weber State, they won. Had them beating UCLA, they won. That was like 14-7. Defense played they behinds off. Had them beating Oregon State, which they lost. Had them beating Cal, which they won. Had them beating SC, had them losing to SC, which they won. Had them beating Oregon, which they lost. I had them beating Arizona State, which they won. Had them losing to Washington, which they lost. Had them beating Arizona, which they lost. Again, Arizona came out of nowhere. And I had them beating Colorado, which they won. Finishing 8-4, 5-4. Got 8 games right, 4 games wrong. They did lose the Vegas Bowl to surprising team of the year, in my opinion, in Northwestern. They lost 14-7. That was a defensive battle. Northwestern, Ben Bryant, again, I talked about it last week with the Big Ten review, but Ben Bryant just showed guts. He showed moxie. He showed everything, getting hurt, coming back in that game to lead them to that victory. Ben Bryant showed a lot, and I was trying to get an NFL job, so shout out to him. But Utah, I think Utah is going to be really good next year because Cam Rising is back, and we know how much Cam Rising elevates that team. Now, Utah will be in the Big 12 where they don't play defense, and Utah has a stupendous defense, or they should have a stupendous defense. They normally keep one. So that's going to be an interesting mix, in my opinion. Let's talk about Washington, the Huskies. I had Washington going 11-1, 8-1, coming off of a 10-2, 7-2 year where they won the Alamo Bowl against Texas, which was kind of foreshadowing because they won a Sugar Bowl against Texas. But Penix returns. They did lose Wayne Taluapupu to the NFL. Roma Dunzier, he returned. Jalen McMillan, he returned. Jalen Pope, he returned. Then they had Jabbar Muhammad, the cornerback, who I really liked last year, transferring from Oklahoma State. So they had a lot of guys. They just had a lot of talent on that offense. They had Dylan Johnson at running back. They had Jack Westover at tight end. They had a lot of talent on that offense. And Michael Penix was just the operator behind it, just slicing defenses. So let's get into the schedule. I had Washington beating Boise State, which they won. Had them beating Tulsa, which they won. I had them beating my Spartans, which they smoked us. I had them beating Cal, they won. Had them beating Arizona, they won. Had them beating Oregon, great game, they won. Had them beating Arizona State, they won. Had them beating Stanford, they won. I had the only loss to SC, which they won. I had them beating Utah, they won. I had them beating Oregon State, which they won. And I had them winning the Apple Cup against Washington State, which was actually a close one. They almost lost that game. So they finished 12-0, 9-0 in conference play. So they also beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, 34-31. They won the Sugar Bowl against Texas, 37-31. And unfortunately for me, they lost the Natty 34-13 to Washington. But I had 11 games right, 1 game wrong in their regular season prediction. Stupendous year by Washington. Again, offense was super explosive. Defense was better than I thought. Now, the defense wasn't, oh my God, it's so crazy. No, but it was above. I wouldn't say above average. If we'll say we'll go elite, we'll go excellent, we'll go great, or excellent, great, same category. Go above average, average. I say they were like in the above average to great because they had moments where they did really good, and then they had moments where they didn't look as good. But Washington, great year. Kalen DeBoer is now parlayed that into the Alabama job. Penix got drafted. All three of the receivers got drafted. Jabbar Muhammad is now at Alabama I believe he's over at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. So everybody got something out of it. Great year. Jed Fish is now over there at Washington, and we just want to see if Jed Fish can try to bring back the feeling. Chris Peterson went to Washington. He with John Ross and Dante Pettis. They went to a playoff. They got smoked by Bama, but they went. Now, Kalen DeBoer went to a playoff with Penix and those guys. Can Jed Fish be the next coach to take Washington to a playoff? We'll see with Washington joining the Big Ten. But we got to talk about Washington State and the last team of the gone but not forgotten Pac-12. Washington State, man, coming off of a 7-5 year, Cam Ward returns, and I'm thinking they got to build on this. They have to build on this. Cam Ward, I like Cam Ward, but he kind of collapsed towards the end of the year. Is he going to do it again? I don't think so. They bring back Nakia Watson at running back. I think Kyle Williams was a guy that returned at wide receiver. He had guys at receiver. Deshaun Striblin transferred in from Oklahoma. And I'm like, this could be not the year they win it. No, I'm not going that far. I'm not saying they win the Pac-12. But I'm like, this could be the year they could possibly be Washington. Maybe make some noise in the Pac-12. Maybe try to compete for a Pac-12 championship. Maybe. And I had them going 8-4, 5-4, just taking one game step forward. They went 5-7, 2-7. Only 2 wins in conference for this team. I was so disappointed. Cam Ward collapsed again. I was so disappointed in Cam Ward. But let's get to the season, man. I had them beating Colorado State, which they won. I had them beating Wisconsin again, and they won. And I'm like, let's go. Let's build on this momentum. That's how it started last year. They beat Wisconsin out of nowhere. Nobody expected Washington State to beat Wisconsin. And they did it. They got the job done. I had them beating Northern Colorado. They won. I had them beating Oregon State, which they won. And then they lost. I actually had them losing to UCLA. Crazy enough. I picked them like that week before. But in the preseason, I had them losing at UCLA. And they lost because Cam Ward in the offense was sputtering. I think Cam Ward threw a late game pick, too, if I'm not mistaken. Had them beating Arizona. They lost. Had them losing to Oregon. They lost. I had them beating Arizona State, which they lost, which is crazy. Had them beating Stanford. They lost again. Crazy. Had them beating Cal. They lost, which is not as crazy, but still, I expect that team to get that W. Had them losing to Colorado, which they won. And then I had them losing to Washington, which they did lose. Again, going 5-7, 2-7, having 7 games right, 5 wrong. Now, I feel as though Arizona State and Stanford should be 2 games that I got right, should have been right. And Washington State laid an egg, didn't show up. And Cal game, and if you got that wrong, I'm not tripping. But those 2 games, you got to win. You have to win to go 7-5, at least 4-5, like you did the year prior. This was a major disappointment, in my opinion. Washington State disappointed me this year. I don't know what it is. I don't know what needs to be changed, but something needs to be changed, and soon. I don't know what. I remember Anthony Gordon and Max Borgi, super high-flying offense. I thought maybe that was the year they could win the Apple Cup. They got smoked. Jimmy Lakes actually had a quote saying, like, we know y'all not going to play defense or something like that. Just got to stop y'all a couple times. I'm paraphrasing. I might be way off, but it was something along the lines of that's why they always beat them in the Apple Cup. What was it, Luke? Was it Luke Falk? I think Luke Falk at quarterback, putting up major numbers at Washington State, man. I don't know. For some reason, I just want Washington State to win. Don't know why, but it doesn't happen. But we have to go into our Pac-12 postseason. And so I'm going to start with this. My Pac-12 championship game was SC versus Washington, with the winner being SC. Now, Washington was there, but they played Oregon, and they actually won. So Washington actually was the Pac-12 champion. I got the ACC champion right with Florida State. I got the Big Ten champion with wrong. I went Ohio State. It was Michigan. I got the Big 12 champion right with Texas. So then it was only right the way the pattern's been going. I got the Pac-12 champion wrong. I went SC. Washington was right there. My Pac-12 player of the year was Caleb Williams. Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year actually ended up being Bo Nix, while the Defensive Player of the Year ended up being Latu of UCLA, which was well-deserved. I think Latu had like 16 and a half sacks. Well-deserved. Now, the standings. My standings was 1, SC, 2, Washington, 3, Utah, 4, UCLA, 5, Oregon, 6, Washington State, 7, Colorado, 8, Arizona, 9, Oregon State, 10, Arizona State, 11, Cal, and 12, Stanford. They actually shook up to be 1, Washington, 2, Oregon, 3, Arizona, 4, Oregon State, 5, Utah, 6, USC, 7, Cal, 8, UCLA, 9, Arizona State, 10 was Stanford, 11 was Washington State, and Colorado was last in the Pac-12 standings. Now, before I move on to my last topic, I do want to just briefly just tell you where all the Pac-12 teams are going. So UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon are now all in the Big Ten. So it's like the Big 18 at this point. But they're all part of the Big Ten. Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah have now all moved to the Big 12 to replace Oklahoma and Texas. So Texas is now in the SEC, which, Joe, if you're watching, that's not a good move for you. But Cal and Stanford are now all in the ACC. I know SMU is joining them in the ACC. I can't remember the last team. I think it's one more team that's joining them in the ACC. I can't remember at the moment. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I know I know SMU is, because there was a question on Twitter. Do you think SMU can challenge for the ACC? I said no, I don't think so. I know they just won the AAC this year, beating Tulane. Shout out Rhett Lashley. Great year by the Mustangs of SMU. But the ACC is a little different. I don't see them beating Dabo. Don't see them beating Mike Norvell. Jeff Brom did his thing with Louisville first year coaching there in his alma mater. So it's going to be tough for them boys. Let's see. SMU, Cal, Stanford. Oh, no, it's just them. It's just them three. It's just Cal, Stanford, and SMU. I thought there was one more, but nope, it's not. So that would normally be it for my show, but in honor of the Pac-12 late, we got to honor one more guy. It sucks. It happened so quickly, but we got to RIP Bill Walton. Feel like he's the pioneer of the Big 12 of this era, ever since I've been watching college basketball. I know I just talked a whole bunch of college football, but it's late night, Pac-12 after dark, and if college basketball was on right now, if it was college basketball season, there would be a game on right now that Bill Walton would be broadcasting, commentating. He would be commentating right now. Whether it's Arizona, Oregon, whether it's Colorado, Utah, man, I just want to say, Bill Walton, you was a legend. I know a lot of people say you ramble. I know you do what you did. I mean, you did. I enjoyed the random stories, the random rambles. Sometimes it annoyed me, but hey, man, that's just you. We got to go over some Bill Walton accomplishments. At UCLA, he was a 3-time player of the year. Freshman couldn't play varsity, so that means he was 3 for 3 player of the year from 71 to 74. He was a 2-time national champ from 71 to 72 and the 72 to 73. Did not win 73 to 74. While he was 2-time champ, he was also most outstanding player in those 2 tournaments that he won. Throughout his college career, he averaged 20.3 points per game. Oh, this is bad handwriting. I want to say 15.7 rebounds per game. Oh, this is bad handwriting. I'm so sorry. 5.5 assists per game, shooting 65.1% from the floor. That's the entirety of his college career. He was the first pick in the 74 draft to the Portland Trail Blazers. where in 77, he would lead them to the NBA Finals, where they would beat the Philadelphia 76ers, led by Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins. He was also Finals MVP in 77. He would come back in 78 to win the NBA MVP before injuries derailed his career. He was also a champ with the Boston Celtics in 1986, where he won Sixth Man of the Year for the with the Boston Celtics. He was also first team All NBA in 1978, which I mean he won MVP, so I guess you like duh, Carl. He was second team All NBA in 77 when he won the finals. So amazing career. He just had brutal foot problems that nobody could diagnose, which got worse and worse, which ended up diminishing his career, I guess you would say. But legend on the floor, legend with the mic. I know Maui Jim Maui Invitational is not going to be the same with me this year because Bill Walton and his goofiness, I guess. He's always on the beach, talking about the beach, talking about random stuff. He loved talking about the Maui Jim Maui, the Hawaiian people. It's just not going to be the same, man. I feel like a lot of people that watch college basketball, the sentiments is going to be the same. Now, there is one thing. There is no Pac-12. So it's not like that's going to be different. That is going to be different, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not like we're missing Bill Walton calling a Pac-12 game. We're missing Bill Walton calling any game, nonetheless. But the Pac-12 dissolved. It's sad to see. It's also sad to see Bill Walton go. You know, you watch a game, Bill Walton, he always, Pac-12, the Conference of Champions. I can't even tell you the last time the Pac-12 won a natty. I can't. Not off the top. I would have to Google it. But during his time, during that run with Coach Wooden, UCLA was running them up. They was running the championships up. So that's why Conference of Champions. I used to be like, come on, man, that's in the past. Like, this is 2020, this is 2019, 2018, whatever. Y'all get the point. It's been a while. I'm going to Google it right now, the last time the Pac-12 team won a national championship. And I don't even think it's going to be in the 2000s. It was 1996-1997 Arizona team. This is from the Googles I got. Lou Olson was the head coach. That was the last time that a Pac-12 team won March Madness. I got 6 different Pac-12 institutions have combined to win 16 titles in men's basketball, with UCLA holding the record for most national championships in the sport at 11. So I do remember him saying, like, that's the reason why 11 chips, 16 in total for the conference. But, bruh, I used to be like, I can't tell you. And that's why I was like 3, maybe 3. I might have been even 2. Been 2 the last time a Pac-12 school won a natty. Arizona, they'll always get to the Elite 8, fold. UCLA, they got to the Final Four a couple times. I won't even say they folded because I didn't expect them to be there half the time. I can't remember with slow-mo, Zach LaVine, Jordan Adams, and all them guys. I can't remember where they went, but I want to say they went like Elite 8. Hold on, let's see. What was that, 12, 13 UCLA? Let's see. The 12-13 team, they went 25-10. Where did they finish? Oh, no, this wasn't it. I want to say, no, was Steve there? Jordan Adams, Norman Powell. No, this is the team. Jordan Adams, Norman Powell, Kyle Anderson. Where's Zach LaVine? Oh, that's not the team because Zach LaVine's not on it. But Shabazz Muhammad was here. Maybe it was next year. Tony Parker, the center, the big man. I remember that. Maybe it was next year. Maybe it was 13-14. 13-14, they went 28-9. This was Steve Offer's first year. Shabazz left. Larry Julie. Yep, here we go. Zach LaVine came in. Yep, this is it right here. Bryce Offer, his son, came in. It was Jordan Adams, Norman Powell, Kyle Anderson, Isaac Hamilton. That was also another guy to score. Zach LaVine, Bryce Alford, Tony Parker, Travis Ward. This is the team right here. And they ended up going to the Sweet 16. They lost to Florida in the Sweet 16. So, like, even that loaded roster at UCLA, Sweet 16. I'm like, come on, bruh. But I say that to say amazing career on the court, amazing career in the broadcasting booth. You will be missed. I know it might not seem like it because I know a lot of people called you annoying, but they'll miss it. I know I will. Rest in peace. And, man, again, gone but not forgotten, just like the Pac-12. You will forever be synonymous, in my opinion, with the Pac-12. And with that being said, this concludes this episode of CTC, called Talking College. Again, I went live this late to honor both the Pac-12 and Bill Walton. It's 12:30 in the morning. It just began crunch time for the last game of the night. I appreciate anybody that came in, that stayed with us or stayed with me throughout this episode. Next week, it won't be as sad. We'll be going over the SEC, the last Power 5 conference, before I go over my group of 5, my 10 group of 5 schools I said to look out for. So thank you again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your night, or get you some sleep for work tomorrow. I will be back next Tuesday, probably at an earlier time. It depends. If the finals are going on, it won't be at an earlier time. If I'm late again off, it won't be at an earlier time. Who knows? I don't know. Time is to be determined. Y'all know how my job get. But again, good night. And until next time, peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all at the next episode.